Worker health and hygiene is important since all employees can carry and spread human pathogens to fresh produce. Pathogens commonly associated with human sources include norovirus, hepatitis A, and Cyclospora cayetanensis, which have been linked to produce outbreaks in the past. Workers can spread pathogens through fecal-oral transmission, clothing and footwear, tools and equipment, their hands, and through illness and injury. A common route of produce contamination is through fecal-oral transmission. Human feces can contaminate produce directly from workers defecating in the field, or when portable toilets, sewer, or septic systems are not properly installed and managed. Workers must ensure all defecation and urination and all toilet paper are disposed of in the toilet. Fecal-oral contamination can also occur when workers do not wash their hands properly after using the toilet. To prevent fecal-oral contamination, workers must be trained on proper hand washing after using the restroom or activities where their hands might become contaminated. Farm managers must also provide appropriate facilities for worker health and hygiene, including supplying fully stocked toilet and hand washing stations that are regularly monitored. Workers should wear clean and appropriate clothing for covered activities. Dirty clothing and footwear can lead to cross-contamination of food contact surfaces and produce. Aprons and other worker clothing should be used for worker protection and no other activities such as cleaning hand tools and wiping food contact surfaces. Worker clothing such as aprons should be properly stored when not in use, cleaned on a regular basis, and removed prior to using toilet facilities. If a farm has livestock or compost, workers should be aware that cross-contamination of feces to clothing and shoes may result in transmission of harmful microorganisms to produce and food contact surfaces. It's recommended that farm workers who work with manure and other animal waste wear a removable apron or other protective clothing during such activities that can be removed before working with produce. If possible, it's recommended to have shoes designated for use involving animal waste and manure. If shoes are worn in multiple areas on the farm, they should be properly cleaned if contaminated with animal waste before returning to work in production fields. Gloves are useful in preventing cross-contamination of germs from hands to produce. However, gloves are not a substitute for proper hand washing. Gloves are not required on farm, but if they are used, they should be changed frequently or cleaned as needed and maintained in an intact and sanitary condition. If gloves are reusable, they should be cleaned as often as necessary so they do not become a source of contamination. Lastly, jewelry worn by workers may present a physical food safety hazard as well as a worker safety risk. It's recommended that workers remove or cover hand jewelry that cannot be adequately cleaned and sanitized during periods in which covered produce is handled. Tools and equipment can become easily contaminated on farms due to improper handling. Tools and equipment should be stored in appropriate places when not in use and need to be cleaned and sanitized routinely to prevent contamination of produce. To prevent contamination of produce and food contact surfaces, workers must wash their hands properly after using the restroom, after eating and smoking, or conducting any other activities where their hands might become contaminated. Workers who are ill or injured can also transfer human pathogens to produce through their hands, bodily fluids, and feces. If a worker becomes injured, they should receive proper medical attention and a supervisor should be notified. If produce or surfaces become contaminated, produce should be discarded and surfaces should be cleaned and sanitized properly before production is resumed. Managers and workers must also be aware of symptoms of illness such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, and jaundice. Ill workers must not handle fresh produce and should be sent home or reassigned to jobs that do not involve handling produce or food contact surfaces.